We are less than a week away from the month of March, which means March Madness is right around the corner, and in today's video, I'm going to be ranking every college basketball team from title contender to first round exit in the upcoming NCAA tournament. But before we begin, if you enjoy the content, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, and now, let's jump into it. So I have 6 different tiers for teams to go in, with each tier representing a different round of the NCAA tournament. I'm going to place every team projected to make the NCAA tournament into one of these 6 tiers, based on how I think they're going to do in March Madness and what their ceiling is. And starting off, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide. This is a very fast-paced, up-tempo style of offense that the Crimson Tide run. They have a great backcourt in LeBaron Philon and Aiden Holloway, which gives me some confidence because guards do win in March. But the biggest question mark for the Crimson Tide right now is that defense, and can it stay consistent against some of the top offenses in the country that they'll be seeing in March Madness. And I do think it is good enough to get them to a second weekend, but I don't think it can go much further. So I'm going to be putting Alabama in my Elite 8 tier for right now. Next, we have Arizona, who has one of the best resumes in the entire country and has honestly looked like one of the most dominant teams in all of college basketball this season. They boast one of the best defenses and one of the best offenses, and are one of the best teams in the best conference, in my opinion, in the Big 12. And they're balanced on both ends of the floor. In the front court, you have guys like Koa Pete, Toby Awaka, Motius Krivas holding it down. And then in the backcourt, you have guards like Jaden Bradley, Anthony Del Orso, and Braden Burries. And really my biggest concern for them is they kind of rely a lot on the interior, and if they're forced to hit outside shots, we know that they can, but are they going to be able to do that time and time again in the tournament if it's needed? But with what we've seen so far, I just don't think there's any way I can put them anywhere other than as a national title contender. So give me Arizona to go into the national title tier. Then next up, we have the Arkansas Razorbacks. And Arkansas has Darius Acuff, who is one of the best point guards in all of college basketball and will be one of the best point guards in the NCAA tournament, and has shown that he can will this team to a win. But my biggest concern for the Razorbacks is their depth right now. Carter Knox is out indefinitely, and we saw in that game against Alabama recently when it went to OT and they were in foul trouble, there just weren't many guys they could go to on their bench that were reliable. I was going to put Arkansas in my Final Four tier, but that depth concern has made me come back a little bit on them, so I'm going to be putting Arkansas as an Elite 8 tier right now. But I definitely think come NCAA tournament time, if they get some guys back, they can be higher than this. Next, we have Auburn, who right now is projected to be in the field, but this could be a team that isn't even in the NCAA tournament with how up and down their season has gone. They have proven they can beat top-tier teams with multiple Quad 1 wins, but obviously they have taken more losses than wins in the Quad 1 right now. But you also have star players in Keyshawn Hall and Tahad Pettiford that can definitely carry you to a win. So if Auburn makes the NCAA tournament, I think they have a ceiling of the round of 32, but right now it's looking more likely that they'd be knocked out in the round of 64. But since we're doing ceilings, I'm going to stick them in the round of 32. Next is BYU, and BYU's ceiling definitely drops after the news that we got with Rinchie Saunders being out for the rest of the year. But you still have a guy like AJ Dybantsa, who is one of, if not the best player in all of college basketball right now. He helped will this team to a win against Iowa State, but they did just take a tough loss at home against UCF, which is a tournament team though. You also have Robert Wright III, who has looked like one of the better guards in the country. He's gone out and won them some games as well. But I think for this BYU team to really thrive in the NCAA tournament, it's going to be up to a guy like Kennard Davis, who could be an X factor if he can pick up some of the offensive load that they're going to be missing with Rinchie Saunders out. So we'll have to see if they're able to pick up the slack that he leaves. But then you also have to make sure that they can defend, because that's one thing against UCF they just didn't do, is there was no defense being played, it seemed like. So for BYU, without Rinchie Saunders, I have to have them as a Sweet 16. You got a guy like AJ Dybantsa, he can definitely carry you to a second weekend, but I'm not sure it can go much further, especially with them being projected around a 6 seed right now. Then we have Clemson, and Clemson right now is trending in the wrong direction as they have been on a losing streak, including a quad 3 loss. They're a really slow tempo team, and teams like that can definitely get upset in March, and they really hang their hat on that top 20 defense. But if they cannot get it going on the offensive end, and with a team like Clemson who is kind of missing a go-to guy who can get their own bucket, in my opinion, this is a team that can get knocked out early. Just haven't been as high on Clemson as I was previous years. So I actually have Clemson getting to the round of 64, obviously being in the NCAA tournament, but I don't know if they're going to win, so I'm putting them in my round of 64 tier. Then we have the Duke Blue Devils next, and I think Duke, they have to be in that national title tier as well. They're arguably the number 1 team in the country right now after that win over Michigan. And then we just saw them go out and absolutely blitz Notre Dame, who I know isn't going to be in the field. But when you beat any team in conference by over 40 points on the road, that's impressive. They have a top 10 offense and defense according to KenPom, and the talent level on this team is off the charts. You obviously have Cameron Boozer, who is the front runner of National Player of the Year in all of college basketball right now, elite on both ends of the floor. And I just really think this team has a lot of balance also with their talent, and they're definitely championship level squad. And throughout the season, I've just gained more and more confidence in the Blue Devils, so they have to be one of my national title contenders. Next, we have Florida. And this may come as a surprise for some, but I'm going right back to national title contender. I think Florida can repeat as national champions this season. Right now on a win streak within SEC play, and they're definitely capable of winning back-to-back national championships. This backcourt has been playing a lot better. Xavier Lee, Boogie Flan have been shooting it a lot better. The team three-point percentage is also trending up. It just got over 30%, which is something I had mentioned in a previous video of we've never had a team that was under 30% win a national championship from 3, and they've got it above that, and they continue to shoot better and better game by game. We know what they have in the front court, one of, if not the best front courts in the entire country. You have elite rebounding. They get to the line a lot. They're physical on the offensive and defensive glass. But the biggest weakness, obviously, is going to be shooting from deep. But if they can get just a little something from these guards, I think the front court can help carry them in this one. So give me the Florida Gators as a national title contender this season. Next, we have Georgia, who is another team similar to Auburn, I think, and Clemson, where they just started off great and then they really slowed down. This is one of the more fast-paced, up-tempo offenses. For their 15th in tempo in the country, top 20 on offensive rating. So they do have strong offensive metrics, but that weakness is on the defensive end because there's a lot of volatility there. They score a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points. And right now, being around that 10 seed line, who they're projected to get as a 7 seed, or even if they fall back to an 11 seed, if they play someone on the 6 seed line, I'm just not too confident in the Bulldogs right now. So I have them in my round of 64 tier as well. Next, we have Gonzaga, which I've definitely dropped down on throughout the year with the Zags. Biggest concern for me is going to be the uncertainty around Braden Huff's injury right now. Initially, I thought he was going to be back in the regular season, pushed that back to the WCC tournament. Now, we don't even know if he's going to be back for the NCAA tournament. And without him in the NCAA tournament, I'm not sure how far Gonzaga can go, but you still have guys like Graham Ike. You got a good guard in Mario St. Superi who can get everybody involved. Tyon Grant Foster has went with Grand Canyon and gotten upset before in the NCAA tournament. So I think a Mark Few coach team, even without Braden Huff, still has a chance to do solid in the tournament. So I'm giving them a Sweet 16 tier, as I definitely think they can get to the second weekend. But before the Braden Huff injury, they would be probably higher up and near the Elite 8 or Final 4. But right now, I have to stick with them at the Sweet 16. Then we have Houston up next. And Houston, a couple of days ago, I probably would have said they're a national title contender. And maybe they still are, but they're on a little bit of a losing streak right now. We know they have the elite defense, but the front court has not elevated their play like I thought they would throughout the season. I think it's really going to be an issue of just no offense coming from the front court. You got Chris Sinak, who can definitely catch and shoot threes at times, but he's really settling for those right now. And they don't really have anyone that's going to go get something in the post. At times, JoJo Tugler does, but it's not consistent. And they rely heavily on those guards to make plays and make things happen. And those guards are great. You got Kingston Flemings, Milos Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, 3 of the best guards in the country, truly. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to win a national title. So I definitely think Houston has what it takes to make it back to the Final Four once again. But when it comes to winning a national title right now, I'm a little bit off of Houston. So give me them to be in the Final Four tier. Next up, we got Illinois, and this is a team I do think can win the national title. Although they are sliding back a bit, they are one of, if not the best offensive team in the country, currently number 1 in offensive efficiency adjusted in KenPom. They got elite scoring balance from top to bottom of the lineup. In the backcourt with Kylan Boswell, Keaton Wagler, Andrea Stojakovic. In the front court, you got the Avicic twins. You got David Mirkovic. Their biggest Achilles heel, obviously, is going to be that defense, but it has stepped up at times. We've seen them win in big moments in Big Ten play, and I think that can continue into the tournament. So I'm sticking with Illinois as one of my favorites as being a national title contender. Up next, we got Indiana. Right now, projected as a 10 seed, but they're sliding back. Could be an 11 seed, or honestly, similar to Auburn, could fall out of the NCAA tournament bubble right now. And I have them as a round of 32, simply being because you have a guy like Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson, and those are 2 elite scorers on the offensive end. I think Darian DeVries has guys that can get you past a first-round matchup, but I don't think they can go much further. So I got the Hoosiers making it to the round of 32 as their ceiling right now. Then you have Iowa. This is a team I really like. They have a really strong offense with their shot making by Bennett Sturts and the spacing that he brings. The defense is decent as well, but this is another one of those teams that just has that slow tempo style of offense. It can definitely get upset. When you have a guy like Bennett Sturts, though, I have to think your ceiling is higher than that of a first round upset. So I am going to be putting Iowa there in the round of 32 tier as well. Next is Iowa State, and they have to go up there with a national title contender as well. We saw Iowa State beat Houston at home. They have strong 2A efficiency. The offense is a lot better, I think, this year than it has been in years past. They have high turnover creation. You have experience in guys like Tamin Lipsey, Joshua Jefferson, Milan Momcilovic. And Milan Momcilovic might be the best shooter in all of college basketball, so you have a guy that can hit threes. You got great defense and guys like Killian Toure. Bateman has looked great. Buchanan looks like a really good transfer portal addition for the Cyclones right now. I really like this team in total, and so I'm going to be putting them in a national title tier, but their offense is streaky at times, which is something I'm concerned about, but I think they do have enough to win a national title this season. Then we have another Big 12 team in Kansas, and I've been going back and forth on Kansas. They've really fallen everywhere from someone that could win a national title to me, all the way back to maybe an Elite 8 or even Sweet 16. But I think I've settled with them being in that Final Four tier because you really don't know with this team. There has been volatility in the games that they've won and that they've lost. We just saw on Monday night that they can show that they have beaten teams like Houston. They've beaten teams like Arizona without Darren Peterson, but then they've also lost to a team like Cincinnati. It's just really up and down with this team. If Darren Peterson plays and he gets into that flow of the offense as we've seen at times, I definitely think Kansas can reach a Final Four this season, but it's really going to be up to whether or not he plays and how that team gels when he does, because he's been in and out of the lineup a lot this season. Next up, we have Kentucky, and Kentucky definitely hasn't had the season that they were expecting to have. I thought they were going to be a lot better this season. I think a lot of people thought they were going to be a lot better this season, but it really hasn't gelled as a squad so far. But when you have talent like they do, I don't think you can say that they're going to be a first-round upset. So I'm putting them in my round of 32 tier. Also, right now, being projected around a 6 or a 7 seed, so they should have the advantage over their matchup in the first round, so I do think they can get to a round of 32, but I'm not liking their odds against any of those 3 seeds or any other seed around there to make it to the second weekend. Then we have Louisville, and this is a team that is efficient on the offensive end. They have elite floor spacing and guys like Michael Brown Jr., Ryan Conwell. You have a lot of guys that can shoot the ball extremely well. Front court gives me some concerns. Sananda Fru is their big one, but guys like Ali Khalifa, they just haven't been playing as well as I thought they would. And I thought this team had more talent than they've shown so far, but Michael Brown Jr. and Ryan Conwell, one of the best backcourts in the country. I do think they can will this team to a second weekend. So I'm getting Pat Kelsey in the cards in that Sweet 16 tier, but I'm not sure they can go much further. Then we have a team like Miami, and I actually really like the Hurricanes and what Jay Lucas has done so far this season. They're strong on the offensive rebounding. They're really good on the interior. Malik Renew is having a breakout season, way better than what we saw from him when he was at Indiana for a few seasons before. He's looked great. They have good guard play in Trey Donaldson. You got True Washington. You have a couple of freshmen in Shelton Henderson and Dante Allen that are good. Uday in the interior as well alongside Renew. I like this team as a whole. I think they can make sure and win their first round matchup and make it to the second round. So I'm giving Miami to the round of 32. Then we have the other Miami, the Miami, Ohio. And this is one of, if not the best mid-majors in the country right now. The only remaining undefeated team in all of college basketball. They have strong discipline and structure. Their offensive execution has been great, especially as of late. They were getting a little dicey in the middle of conference play in the MAC, where they were going to overtime or winning by single possessions. But now, recently, Miami, Ohio has turned it on in the MAC, and they're looking like they're definitely making the NCAA tournament, but they're going to have to stay strong for a couple of more games. I think I have to put them in at least the round of 32 because this team has shown and proven enough. Right now, projected to be around an 11 seed. If they go undefeated, maybe get to the 10 seed line. I'm not sure. So they're definitely going to be underdogs in that first matchup. So I have to at least give them a round of 32 though with what they've done. But I'm actually going to be picking them to be in that Sweet 16 tier just because I think that's their ceiling. I don't necessarily know if they're going to make it there. It's all going to be matchup dependent. But if they get the right matchups and they get the right seeds playing against them, I do think Miami, Ohio has a chance to make it to a second weekend. Next, we have Michigan, another one of the best teams in the country. By no surprise, I have to put them in the national title consideration. However, this is one of the teams that we have seen a higher volatility with. I think they've had really close efforts. TCU earlier on, that was one that we were a little nervous about. Wisconsin was their first loss, but Wisconsin has picked it up as of late, so it's not looking like as bad of a loss. They just took that loss to Duke, which I think definitely made me think that they were more mortal, because at one point in time, it looked like this team was immortal with what they were doing, especially in Vegas earlier in the season. I do think this is one of the favorites to win the national title. Currently number one in most predictive metrics, number one in overall efficiency, top 10 in offense and defensive efficiency as well, so they're elite on both ends. You got a leader like Yaxel Lindenborg, who's more of a point forward. I think you have capable guard play in Elliot Cadeau, LJ Cation, Namari Burnett, but then obviously the front court, I think alongside Florida, probably the second best front court in the country with Lindenborg, with Merez Johnson Jr. and Adai Mara. The biggest concern for me is that three-point shot. We saw when they were playing at Purdue, they were hitting everything, and when they play like that, there's no one that can beat them. But then when you go and play Duke, if you don't shoot it as well from deep, are they going to be able to win in different ways? I think they can. So I got Michigan as a national title contender for me. Then Michigan's rival is up next with Michigan State and Sparties. They have that defense-first identity. You got Jeremy Fears Jr., who might be the best point guard in the country at this point. Like, I all season long and in the preseason, I was saying it was Braden Smith, but Jeremy Fears Jr. at times has looked a little better than Braden Smith, I must admit. So you have a really good point guard in Jeremy Fears Jr. who can set the offense up for you. You got Cohen Carr, Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, and others. The biggest question is, are they going to be able to score on the offensive end consistently? It's the one thing time and time again with this Michigan State team we've seen is we know what they're going to bring on the defensive end. A Tom Izzo coach team is going to be hard-nosed. They're going to bring it each and every night on the defensive end. But when it comes to the offensive side of things, can they consistently score? And I think that does limit their ceiling a bit, but I still have them as a team that can make it to the Elite Eight. I trust them enough to do that, and I trust Tom Izzo enough to make it there. I just don't know if they can get much further than that. Next, we have Missouri, which is a really intriguing team to me right now. Mark Mitchell and the Tigers have been playing well, making some noise in the SEC, fighting for their spot in the tournament. And I actually like what I've been seeing from them recently. This is a really physical team. They get to the line efficiently and a lot, but at times inconsistent on the defensive end. But I still think this is a team out of the SEC that could get an upset in the first round, especially with the matchup that they're presented. I think they'll be an 11 seed if they make it into the tournament. And some of these 6 seeds right now aren't looking as great as they once were. So I'm giving Missouri around a 32 tier. Then we have NC State and Will Wade and the Wolfpack. They've had a roller coaster past couple of weeks, from big wins to then big losses as well, especially that most recent one against Virginia. We know this team can shoot it. They have efficient shooting and spacing, and a strength of theirs is definitely their perimeter scoring, led by Quadir Copeland. You got Darion Williams, who honestly has been good, but hasn't been as great as we all thought he was going to be with the Wolfpack. Then you have their biggest weakness, though. That's at times, it just looks like that defense isn't doing anything. Allowing Virginia to score 90 points on you was absolutely crazy, something that definitely gave me a little bit of pause. So originally I was going to have them in the Sweet 16 tier. I'm actually dropping them back to the round of 32. Definitely think they can get 1 win in the tournament, but after that performance, I'm not sure they can get 2. So give me NC State as the Sweet 16, especially with them being an 8 seed. I don't necessarily like that they're going to have to be playing one of these 1 seeds in the next round. I'm not sure they can get past them. So I got Will Wade and the Wolfpack in his first season there at NC State, having a ceiling of the round of 32. Then we have Nebraska. I love Nebraska this season. Really fun story. Obviously got off to the hot start. 20-0, was looking like one of the best teams in the country, and still looks like one of the better teams in all of college basketball, but has definitely cooled off since. They are really strong on the offensive rebounding, and honestly, they play a pretty physical style of play, but they can also shoot it. You got a guy like Bryce Sanford out there that can shoot it. Rink Mass can step out and shoot it as well. I really like the freshman Braden Frager. He's come up in big moments for them in Big Ten play, and I think Nebraska is not only going to get their first win in the NCAA tournament, but I think they have a ceiling as high as the Elite Eight with what they've done so far this season. Fred Hoiberg and Nebraska having obviously their best season in program history, and I think it's going to be even better come March. Now we have North Carolina, and the Tar Heels are a bit of a tricky team for me right now. In this video, I'm going to be projecting that Caleb Wilson is in, because every indication that we know from his injury and the news that we've gotten is that the plan is he'll be back for the ACC tournament and get some of that rust off and get ready and geared up for the NCAA tournament. And with Caleb Wilson back in the fold, I believe North Carolina can make a second weekend and make it to the Sweet 16. So I'm putting them in that tier. Without Caleb Wilson, though, I think it's around a 32 max for me. But with what he does and what he brings in the front court alongside Henry Vasar, you got guys in the backcourt like Seth Trimble obviously stepping up. Derek Dixon has been looking good as well. You got other guys. Jaron Stevenson, in Caleb Wilson's absence, has put on some good numbers and some good performances recently also. You have some guys that I think can help alongside Wilson, so I do think they can get it to the second weekend of the tournament, but I don't think they can go past the Sweet 16 right now. Then we have Purdue. And Purdue, we know what they can do on the offensive end. They have one of the elite offenses in the entire country. This team has experience. You got Braden Smith. You have Fletcher Lawyer. You have Trey Kaufman-Renn. You have guys that have been in this position before and have won and made it far in the NCAA tournament. Originally in the preseason, this was my pick to win. Throughout the season, I have definitely cooled on that, but I do believe Purdue has the ceiling of Final Four. I think they have the capability to get there. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to win a national title. Maybe they're going to be able to prove me wrong, but I think that defense is not as good as it needs to be right now for them to be a contender for a national title. So I think they can make it to the Final Four, but I think that's the ceiling right now for the Boilermakers. Then we have St. Louis, and St. Louis was looking like one of the hottest mid-majors in the country alongside Miami, Ohio, out of the A10. Then they took a weird loss on the road at Rhode Island, but then they came back, beat VCU, thought they got back on track. It was just one game, and then they took another loss, this time against Dayton. The team, though, they have strong rebounding. They got a good interior presence with Robbie Avila. You also have good guards and good guys on the outside as well. They get to the free throw line. But right now, it's just looking like the defense isn't playing as good or as nice as I would want them to play heading into March. So I am cooling a bit. I was fully on the train of putting that St. Louis can make it to an Elite Eight, but I've definitely cooled off a little bit. But I'm still believing in Josh Schertz's squad, so I'm going to have them in my Sweet 16 tier. I think they can get to a second weekend. Right now, projected around a 7 seed. After a few losses, probably going to drop back to an 8, a 9, maybe even a 10. And I think if they get to a 10, that's a better spot, obviously, than that 8 or 9 because they wouldn't have to face the 1 seeds. But we'll have to see where they end on the seed line. But I definitely think they have the talent to make it to the Sweet 16. Next, we have Santa Clara. This is another efficient offense with shooting balance out of the WCC. I do like what I've seen from Santa Clara, but I really wanted them to make a big statement in their game against Gonzaga a few weeks ago at home, and they just weren't able to do that. And if you're not able to do that, especially with the Gonzaga team that's playing injured right now in the WCC without Braden Huff, I just don't think I'm going to be able to pick you to go that far. So right now, Santa Clara, I have them as a first-round exit, but we'll see if they're able to prove me wrong. Then you got SMU, right now projected to be around that 8 or 9 seed line. The one thing I really like about SMU is the guard play. I do believe guards win in March. You got Boopy Miller, you got Jerome Pierre Jr., got a lot of really good guys on this team. They're going to be able to help you win. SMU, really efficient on the perimeter, shooting, can space it out well. The weakness is going to be that defense, but I believe matchup dependent that the Mustangs can win in the first round and advance to the second round of the round of 32. But with where it's looking right now, I'm not sure they're going to be getting past any of the 1s or the 2s. So I'm going to have them as a round of 32 tier. Then we have St. John's. And St. John's, I don't know what happened in that game against Yukon most recently. In the second half, this team absolutely fell apart. If they have a performance like that, I think they could be upset in the first round. And coming into making this video, I was not expecting to be saying that because what I had been saying previously in their first matchup against Yukon is if they play like that, if they give that intensity, if they can shoot the ball like they did, if they can get after it on the defensive end like they did, they're a really physical team. I think they can give a lot of teams trouble. But that shooting variance and the ability to score on the offensive end consistently is something that they're going to need to advance far in March. And we obviously didn't see that in their most recent game against Yukon where they got absolutely blown out. I believe only they made 2 field goals in the second half in total, which is an insane stat. But I can't let one game fog me from what I've seen from St. John's all season long, but more specifically recently in Big East play. So I'm sticking to my guns. I believe St. John's has a ceiling to make it to an Elite 8, but they're not going to be able to give that same performance that they just gave against Yukon, because if they did, they're going to be upset in the first round. But if we're talking about ceilings, I do think Rick Pitino has the talent to make it to the second weekend and onto the Elite 8. Next, we have St. Mary's, Randy Bennett's squad. Just like you would expect, really slow tempo, discipline on the defensive end. They're really efficient with what they do, but obviously that pace that they play with is going to, one, allow them to play with anybody, but also allow anybody to play with them. I do like Paulius Morauskas. I always try and shout him out because he's one of my favorite players in the mid-major level. But just St. Mary's, when it comes to the NCAA tournament, especially recently, we see them getting knocked out in the first round a lot, and I think, unfortunately, right now with how it's looking, it's going to be like that again. So I have St. Mary's as a round of 64 tier. Next, Texas. They just played Florida really well. It was a really close game, and then obviously Florida ran away with it at the end a bit. But you have a guy like Dalen Swain. You have a strong offense. They can space the floor. Dalen Swain's obviously an NBA draft prospect who can guard their best player. You got a Jordan Pope. I like Volkatitis down low. Defense is the big question mark, but I definitely think this Texas team can win a game and make it to the second round. So I got Texas moving to the round of 32. Then we have another Texas school in TCU. And this is a TCU team that we saw push Michigan to the brink. Honestly, should have beat Michigan in the non-conference. Also played Florida and won, which right now, I mean, those are two of my title contenders. So I do think TCU has what it takes to make some noise and win a game in March. Right now at the 11 seeds, so they're going to be facing some of those 6 seeds. Projected could move up to a 10 seed maybe, but obviously on the bubble picture right now. But if they get in with what they've done so far in the season, I don't think I can say their ceiling is the round of 64, so I'm putting them in that round of 32 as well. Then we have Tennessee, and Tennessee, I just go back and forth on this team. You see them in their highs, you see them in their lows. A little bit of a roller coaster of a season so far for Rick Barnes and the Volunteers. I will say Nate Ament trending in the right direction. Unfortunately, I think Jacoby Gillespie might be trending in the wrong direction, but you have a guy like Jacoby Gillespie who led Maryland in the NCAA tournament last year and found success with the Terrapins there. Now he's with the Volunteers, leading a team that has a very talented freshman in Nate Ament. You have a guy like Felix Okpara who's going to be able to defend the rim. They're very physical on the defensive end. I think could give some teams some trouble. Obviously, they should be projected to win their first round matchup right now with them being around the 5 seed line. They're elite on the offensive rebounding. As long as they can limit their turnovers, I don't think they get upset in the first round. I do think they have the talent to win in the second round as well. So I'm giving them a ceiling of the Sweet 16 right now. Then we have Texas A&M, and Texas A&M was at one point first in the SEC through 7 games, 7-0 in conference play, and then it has really all started to come crashing down slowly but surely for this team. We know that they're tough, they're physical, they play that bucky ball, kind of get at you, really aggressive, but I think their offensive ceiling is a bit weak for this team, and I'm just not sure how they're going to match up with some of these other teams. I do think they're going to be the lower seed in their first round matchup, and I'm not too confident with who they're going to beat that's going to be above them. So I got the Aggies in my round of 64 tier. Next, I have Texas Tech, and obviously their ceiling took a big hit with the news that JT Toppin is now out for the season. He won't be available for the NCAA tournament. But we've seen Texas Tech actually play decent without JT Toppin. Christian Anderson had already taken on a big load this season and made that sophomore leap, but he's taking on even more without JT Toppin. And we know he's one of the better point guards in the country, can facilitate off the pick and roll. I think he can get his guys in the right spot. You have a guy like Donovan Atwell, who might be one of the more underrated shooters in all of college basketball. He's shooting the ball really well and did so in JT Toppin's absence. I think this team can make some noise because they have other weapons like Lawan Watts. I don't think that this team gets upset in the first round. I think that round of 32 matchup is going to be critical, but I do believe they have the ability to win it and make it to the Sweet 16. But I think that's where their ceiling is capped now without JT Toppin for Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders. Next, we have UCF, who just had a really, really big win recently in the Big 12. This team, Johnny Dawkins, they have been one of the better stories. You got to win over Kansas. You got to win over Texas Tech. I mean, they have done a lot more than what most of us thought. They're really efficient on the offensive end, and they got balance there. But the defensive reliability is going to be the big question mark for the Golden Knights. But with the wins that they've gotten so far, I believe that they can do that and at least get one win. Right now, looking like they might be in that 8-9 matchup. Could fall to a 10 seed, but I think they could beat some of the 7 seeds as well. So I'm giving them at the round a 32 tier. Next, we have UCLA, and I think this one's going to be a little more of my hotter take. UCLA, obviously, not exactly what we expected from Mick Cronin's squad. I think they have too much talent for where they're at right now. Donovan Dent has not looked like himself. You have Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark. You got guys, Trent Perry, like they do have a lot of talent. It just hasn't worked out so far. But this kind of feels like that UCLA team from a couple of years ago where, they were one of the teams that just went on a run and we weren't expecting it. I'm not sure they're going to be making it as far as that team did, which was the Final Four, but I do think UCLA could be a dangerous 11 seed, which is where they're looking at right now. So I'm actually putting them in my Sweet 16 tier with the talent that they have. Now, would I be picking that in my bracket right now? I don't know. It's all matchup dependent, but I do think that is their ceiling, that they're able to get to the second weekend. Then we have Yukon, and a lot of people recently have been falling off Yukon. Obviously, they took the loss against St. John's. They took an unexpected loss against Creighton and kind of turned off a lot of people from what Yukon have been doing. But if we look back at what they did in the non-conference, they took an Arizona team to the brink without two of their best players in Braylon Mullins and Taurus Reed. They just absolutely obliterated St. John's. And our biggest thing with Yukon and Dan Hurley's squad this season has been the defense. It has not been there. Well, it showed up against St. John's in that most recent matchup. As I mentioned, limited them to only 2 field goals made in the second half. And if they can put something like that together in their run, I can't see why this team doesn't have enough talent and doesn't have the capability to win a national title. So I have Yukon as one of the teams I think can win a national title, and putting them in that tier. Then we have USC. USC, the biggest issue for me with the Trojans is they have just lost too many people to injuries. Chad Baker-Mazara, Rodney Rice. Right now they're relying heavily on Elijah Arenas as a freshman. I just don't know if USC is going to be able to do enough in the tournament to even win a game right now, and whether or not they make it is to be in question as well. So I have the Trojans in my round of 64 tier. Then we have Utah State, a team I was really high on in the mid-majors, then took a loss, dropped back a little bit, but now has been building it back up. A really efficient offense. You get out a guy like Mason Falslev, who's one of the better mid-major talents as well. They're really strong in transition, and they shoot it effectively. Biggest weakness, though, can be on the defensive end, specifically rebounding. But I do think with where they're going to be at in the bracket right now, around a 7 seed, could get up to a 6 seed. I think they're going to be able to make a little bit of a run. So I have Utah State in my Sweet 16 tier. They're one of my mid-majors that I think could make it to a second weekend, along with Miami, Ohio. Then we have Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt, another team that started off really hot, similar to Nebraska. They went on 16-0. We're looking like one of the better teams in the country. You have a guy like Tyler Tanner, who's breaking out in his sophomore year. Duke Miles, he got hurt, but now he's back. You got Tyler Nickel, Devin McLaughlin, a lot of different pieces. They have been a little bit up and down recently, but I do think with what talent that they have with Mark Byington as their coach, this team can make a run. And I believe that Vanderbilt has the capability to make it to an Elite Eight. So I have the Commodores, Tyler Tanner, Mark Byington, and co. as an Elite Eight tier. I know they haven't been playing it as of late, but if you look at the totality of their season, what they've done so far, I do think they have the ability to make it there. Up next, we got Villanova. And Villanova, a great bounce back season for the Wildcats. It's going to be nice having Villanova back in the tournament after what seems like a while with the drought that they were on recently. Very disciplined offense for the Wildcats. Strong shot selection. They have a really good offensive structure there. I think what's going to limit them is their size. They're pretty small, both in the backcourt and the front court, but you do have a guy like Duke Brennan who has played in the NCAA tournament before with Grand Canyon, so he's been there before. I think Villanova definitely can win a game. I'm just not sure if they can win more than one, so I'm putting Villanova in the round of 32 tier. Then we have Virginia, and this might be one take that a lot of people differ. I've seen a lot of people not be that high on this team. I love Virginia and have for quite some time. I feel like that's been reflected in my rankings week after week. This team, although they play at a slower tempo, they're really efficient on the offensive end. They also have really good half-court defense. I think Ryan Odom, in his first year with the program, has done an amazing job with the Cavaliers. And then they have talent, both in their starting lineup, but off the bench. You have a guy like Tice DeRitter. You have Dallin Hall, which is a solid, strong starting point guard. You have Malik Thomas. You got Chance Mallory. You also have a guy like Jakari White coming off the bench that can get buckets. This team has a lot. I think they're the second best team in the ACC right now, right after Duke. And I actually have so much confidence in this team. I believe their ceiling this season is a Final Four. I think they can make it that far. So I got Virginia in my Final Four tier. And then lastly, we have Wisconsin. And Wisconsin might have some of the best wins in the entire country. We obviously saw that they beat Michigan, which was one of the best wins. They have a lot of other really good wins in the Big Ten as well. Then you got a backcourt with the likes of John Blackwell and Nick Boyd, which might be one of the best backcourts in the entire country. When they're on a roll, when they're shooting it well, no one can stop this team. But the biggest question for them is, can the defense hold up? Do they have enough in the front court to challenge some of these other teams? But I do think Wisconsin, with the guards, has enough to make it to the Sweet 16, so that's where I'm going to be putting them. But that wraps it up for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on my March Madness tiers right now. Who would you have higher, or who would you have lower? Also, if you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.